So, good evening. My name is Taru, and I welcome you to this week's Friday Study Circle. So, here we basically, reflect, discuss, or just share the, teachings, the readings that we have read of various mystics and masters. And we mainly focus on the words of Mother and Sri Aurobindo. So, thank you for joining in. And whoever wants to go first can start with their sharing about anything that they might have read that they want to share uh, through this week. And I do know that Jyotsna ji had said she has something really interesting for us. So I'm looking forward to that as well. So yeah, thank you. Jyotsna ji, should we just start with you today since, if you have it in front of you?
Actually, I've lost that. It was about us keeping pets and how they respond, but I can't find that.
Okay.
Oh, that's lovely. Jyotsna ji, can you find it?
I will search it for next week.
Arey.
Okay.
Okay.
And how the cats respond and how the dogs respond. It's very nice. Mother tells
Okay.
us about them. I'll search it.
Huh.
Actually, I took the bookmark out and put it somewhere else.
Okay. Yeah. And Nandini, since you're unmuted, do you have any sharing today? Anything you might have read, or should we?
No, I haven't, Taru. I think I haven't. I
Okay,
haven't.
perfect. Yeah, yeah.
I read something on adverse forces, Taru.
Okay, perfect. Yes.
Because we had the discussion on
Yeah,
Wednesday.
yeah.
Uh, it's very interesting.
Yep. Kindly then let's start with that.
We can kickstart with it, and then everybody can give their input or their sharings, whatever.
Yes, perfect. So I'll.
The topic is adverse forces, and the first line is attacks from adverse forces are inevitable. Yes. Yes. It's 5th May 1929. Attacks from adverse forces are inevitable. You have to take them as tests on your way and go courageously through the ordeal. The struggle may be hard, but when you come out of it, you have gained something. You have advanced a step. There is even a necessity for the existence of hostile forces. They make your determination stronger, your aspiration clearer. It is true, however, that they exist because you gave them reason to exist. So long as there is something in you which answers to them, their intervention is perfectly legitimate. If nothing in you responded, if they had no hold upon any part of your nature, they would retire and leave you. So, mother is questioned. Sometimes, when an adverse force attacks us and we come out successful, why are we attacked once again by the same force? So she answers, because something was left inside. We have said that the force can attack only when there is something which responds in the nature. However slight it may be, there is a kind of affinity, something corresponding. There is a disorder or an imperfection which attracts the adverse force by responding to it. So if the attack comes, you must keep perfectly quiet and send it back. But it does not necessarily follow that you have got rid of that small part in you which allows the attack to come. You have something in you which attracts this force. Take, for example, it is one of the most frequent things, the force of depression. That kind of attack of a wave of depression that falls upon you. You lose confidence, you lose hope, you have the feeling you will never be able to do anything, you are cast down. It means there is in your vital being something which is naturally egoistic, surely a little vain, which needs encouragement to remain in a good state. So it is like a little signal for those forces which intimates to them, you can come, the door is open. But there is another part in the being that was watching when these forces arrived. Instead of allowing them to enter, the part which sees clearly, which knows, which has power, which resists, says, no, I do not want that. It is not true. I do not want it, and sends them back. But you have not necessarily been cured of the little thing within you which permitted them to come. You must go very deep within, work within you persistently to be able to efface all possibility of calling. And so long as you have not completely effaced it, the attack will recur almost unexpectedly. You push it back, it is like a ball you throw against the wall, back it returns, you push it back once again, and again it returns until the moment there is no longer anything to attract it. Then it does not return again. Then it continues a lot, but it is so relevant to us, wherein during a day, so many times we attract adverse forces into ourselves. And, like I was talking about that niche, you give it that niche, let it enter, and then it captures you. But if you don't give it that niche and you just stay calm in a stepping back mode and say, no, I'm not going to let you come in, and I'm not inviting you, and I don't need you, and I don't want you, it's not going to come. And I have found, like Mother gave the example of depression, I have found it even for my own sake, at a personal level, that I actually did not allow depression to enter, but I did allow the depression to enter once in my life for a few moments, and it was devastating because it can just engulf you. It was so rapid that I even thought of suicide, planned it, did everything. And I said, bloody hell, no. You get out. And then I uprooted it. But that was only thanks to Mother's teachings. And after that, never again. But it is us who gives the niche. So I thought it's relevant to us.
I have a very recent example of this. I don't know if I'd. Yeah, so like I had gone to my in-laws' place, and there I have a 7-year-old, and he pulled up some crepe bandages. Like he found a drawer in which, and he loved to play with it. Like he basically, it was so long, he tied up the table and stuff. And as soon as I saw it, when he got it, like to show me, see what I found, I felt so much love towards the crepe bandage because it reminded me that when as a child I used to have a lot of ankle sprains. So it reminded me of my father's love, like how whenever I would have a sprain, he would give special attention to me. And mother talks about it a lot, and that got me a lot of gratitude towards him, and it felt nice. And at that second, something told me that you are about to have an ankle pain or something. And in about 3 to 4 hours, I started feeling pain in my ankle, and I was like, it had to come. But I was still in that, oh, it was such a beautiful phase moment that I accepted it. I took the crepe bandage, I rested, I took the cold pack and stuff. 1 day passed, 2 day passed and stuff. And the third day, like everybody around me was concerned, and I knew it was my doing, right? Like it just I created it. So the third day, I was like, this is too much. And I was like, okay, I know I pulled it. And now I reject it. I mean, although my ankle was hurting, I removed the cream bandage and I started walking normally. You know how when you have an ankle thing, you walk with a kind of a different gait. So I just started walking normally and I said, I reject you and I am grateful for that time and it's over. Like, I don't need these stories to feel his love. And I would say after that, I don't know where it went. Like it just disappeared. And it was like, okay, and of course, with basic sickness and also like mother when she speaks, right, that you feel it coming. And at that moment, you have that choice whether you said, oh, I'm sad, kind of I'm about to get sick, or you just reject it that I don't want it. So, but I mean, that thing has happened subtly at various times, but this one was so because it was physical, it was like an actual pain, and it was happening in front of me. And the moment I said I don't want it anymore, it just disappeared. So I was speaking to another friend of mine. He's a very big therapist, and he said, the body has this that much capacity that if it decides that it has to heal, like the healing can happen in fractions of seconds. Even physical healings, kind of like really big things. If the body says that that's it, so much is our strength. Like it's just amazing. And I also love that line, in the beginning where it said that hostile forces make you stronger. So especially feel this, about the difficult relationships that we have in our life and the situations, situations we always know, we know that pain makes you stronger, struggling makes you stronger. But I have personally experienced that with difficult people, when you have resistance, it's then you rebel. And when you don't have it, you kind of can fall into some passivity, but when somebody says you can't do it, then that that shout that comes, I will do it and I'll show you. Not show you, show is I think probably not there, but I can do it and I will do it. It has really propelled me, like it has helped me very significantly. So just wanted to share that.
At this juncture, I also feel the universe conspires to make you stronger. It throws at you things that you will fight. I on a personal level, I have always wondered why I was born in my family, where four of us have four different, not religions, but religious beliefs, four different corners. And then, my sister and I were talking, and then she said, I think this is the Almighty's way of making us firmer on the grounds on which we are developing. Each one is like, I am hung ho about Sri Aurobindo and the mother. She is on Ramakrishna mission path. My mother is a Radha Swami. My dad is a Vaishnav Krishna Bhakt. It's and ritualist. So it's all. So you kind of understand why certain situations are thrown at you later in life when you actually try to analyze it. And the tougher it gets, the stronger your belief. So I have become so cemented on my path, she on hers, like that. That's what I wanted to say when she said it.
Yes, please. Anybody else who would want to share on this, please unmute and share. Beautiful topic, Jyotsna. Thank you for bringing it.
Yeah, very beautiful. Both of you shared, no? I can reflect, I can connect with those things now. Recently, what is happening to me, actually. I have got a problem now. Josna ji knows. For that, actually, for some reasons, okay, I was keeping quiet. Okay, it is like that only. Let it be like that. But again, my husband wanted me to come to Chennai to consult a doctor, again, expert doctor, so that we can get a very definite result. Then that doctor also said the same thing what the surgeon told in Bangalore, actually. So again, I got confused. Now Josna ji explained, no, surely it is an attack. Again, completely I am out of thing, totally. What is this happening? And again the situation, because I'm staying in my in-laws place, their own opinion, it will come, no, lot of discussions. It has to be removed through surgery only. So I'm not for surgery, I'm sure. From inside it is telling it is nothing, don't worry, but all the things conspire towards me. No, you have to remove that. That is the thyroid gland, actually. There is some swelling in it. I consulted with Josna ji also. She said it is nothing. But again, pulled towards that. For 1 week, it was going like that. Then yesterday, really, that feeble inner voice told me, where you have gone. Completely out of state, I was actually. Then I started reading all the books again, and Synthesis of Yoga class I entered. Then that feeble voice told me, no, it is not. You should not think about surgery. Again, it is bringing me to the fold, actually. Yeah. This is
External
really coming
environment
as
always um, gives you stronger and stronger hits to break you.
yeah,
But that is where your inner strength and your resilience come in.
yeah.
It's
So
like we
very,
say, they make a man of you. It's like that. They actually make a man of you.
um,
And it's
today's topic.
always
Yeah,
from the closest ones that the attacks come. It is
yeah,
never from people who don't matter. It comes from
yeah,
those who are in your innermost circle, because
yeah,
the divine knows that it's only when I hit him with these folks counted on the fingers that we will react.
yeah. Correct. Hmm. But thanks to all these things, I could come out easily out of it and again regain my inner strength, actually. Yeah. But the last 1 week, completely out of state, I was.
When these phases come, Chitradi,
Yeah,
you that step back mode is the Ramban.
yeah,
You sit quietly in silence and the answer actually comes to you,
yeah, yeah,
because it
yeah,
is so feeble that it is not heard in the noise of routine life.
yeah. Because I'm not blaming other people, but they are telling, it is their wonder also how you can remain, without reaction even for this. Their question is like that, actually. If I remain reactionless, that is the question. You have to go for surgery immediately, you have to arrange for everything, And why are you keeping quiet like this? Really, I got confused. And then, but even in that confusion, I could retain that, I mean, silence. I didn't go for immediately, I mean, yeah. So now it is settling down calm and peace is again, I'm regaining, yeah, everything.
No,
A very
Chitra,
suitable topic to.
you were saying that you
Mhm.
were not in touch and you had lost, kind of you were lost at
Yeah.
that time. But with what you are sharing, that how
Mm.
when there was so much coming at you, you were
Yeah.
still able to. So, maybe you felt that you are out of it, but I
Yeah.
don't think it was, that is the truth. Like maybe it feels that way. And, this thing, this whole bombardment is kind of the
Yeah.
way it works, right? Like
Yeah.
somehow there's so much noise suddenly that you can't even hear your own thoughts, right? Okay, it's like, that fear is coming in, that accusation that you're crazy and stuff, and you
Yeah.
start doubting, right? And
Yeah.
this is something that we had very briefly discussed in the Harmony Circle, that, about thoughts and faith. That whenever I am lost in thoughts, that means I'm
Yeah.
kind of moving away from faith. And when I'm in faith, then the thoughts
Yeah.
don't bother me that much. I'm able to maintain that distance. So it's
Mm.
just so beautiful to even see that is also a way it works, right? Like either
Yeah.
it's my story or it's my faith. So thank you so much
Mm.
for sharing. It was beautiful.
And also in a very beautiful inner voice, it asked me actually where it has gone. You have attended so much of that healing sessions. Only that's which session I started when I think 2020 beginning actually. So it gave me lot of insights into our inner being and all. It really, really very beautifully it asked me where it has gone. Why are you so much in this confusion now? It is beautiful. Josna ji used to point out that little inner voice is always there. That I could really hear only after I come back home. That I don't know. Even in that atmosphere, no, I couldn't hear anything. I couldn't decide anything. I was in total confusion. But in that night, I didn't sleep at all. But I was able to read something from mother's book. That is the only hope. Yeah, that is beautiful. Yeah, now you are reading about that adverse force attack. No, it's very beautiful, really. Only we have that. I mean, until unless we have that invitation for that attack, it won't come. No, it is from us only that invitation is going. Yeah.
I have found very often when minor illnesses are coming in,
Yeah.
you get a premonition, some little your throat tickles or your nose tickles and something, you're getting sick. And when you immediately say, you call mother and tell her that, no, I don't want this illness. Mother, you just take it away. Believe me, it doesn't come.
Yeah. Even Taru shared now, no, about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's beautiful, really.
Like even if it's not the illness, like even small things. I'll share another example and then I'll stop. I'm talking too much. That once in one, for in my car, one of the headlights had kind of, I don't know, somehow detached, and it was hanging a bit from the wires. And it was maybe, I don't know, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks. It wasn't bothering me. It wasn't that much. It was a little bit, but then it was getting bigger and bigger. And somebody was very kind of, I don't know, horrified that how can you be so relaxed about these things and it's not all right and stuff. Go and get it corrected and stuff. And one day, he got very angry. You have no time for the things that matter and stuff. And I got into my car and I was like, oh, mother, I mean, if you think that this is a good utilization of the time, like the 2 hours I go in a workshop and the 2 hours I could be doing. So you see, you take me wherever. And I had to actually go and meet a friend in a hospital that day. So first I went there And there, when I got out of my car, a guy approached me and he said, "Okay, I saw that your headlight is coming out and I am a mechanic. Is it okay if I fix it for you? I'll do it for like 200." So I was like, oh, I mean, this was what I went in when I sat in the car. I was like, if you think this is a good use of the time, I'll be happy to go today. But she sent someone where while I was visiting my friend, which took me like, maybe an hour, by the time I came, it was done. Like I paid him 200, I went in and I came out and it was all perfect. So, I mean, I don't know, these small miracles that we have like in everyday thing, it's
Yeah.
just, it, it feels odd to even share it, right? Because what are you trying to prove or what are you saying? And yet, with that child's innocence or certitude of faith, if you just, it was just a simple thing. If you want this, I'll go, because it was coming to me, go, go, go. So it's just, so anything, illness or any chores, anything there is, she is there to help. Yeah, or
Thanks for the sharings, both of you. Really, it's timely. I can say it's timely. Yeah.
so, Sujata ji, Captain Nandini, if there's anything about this or anything else that's come into your mind, I would request you to please unmute and share.
Hi, I'm Sujata.
Yeah.
And this is the first time I'm attending this session, and it's really nice. I've been wanting to join for a long time, but somehow I hadn't been keeping good health. And now I'm recovering. So I thought today I should join. So I've gone through a difficult time the last 3-4 months, and I've got a lot of strength. I attend Gita classes actually. Got a lot of strength from Bhagavad Gita and from my Gurujis and all that. But I was very attracted towards whatever you all write in this group Friday, the study circle. And I always go through it, and I really love to read what you all have written, and I want to become a part of this regularly. It may not happen regularly, but I will try my best. And for me, I feel every moment is a miracle. Every moment. Yesterday, I went through a very difficult time. My children live in Bombay in a multi-storied building, and in the basement 3 there was a fire. And my grandchildren only were at home. They are 9 and 5, and their maid was there. My daughter-in-law had gone to work, and my son was in Lucknow. So I was horrified when I heard about this fire, and just started praying. And they know that if mummy gets to know about this, then she'll go mad. So anyway, my son called me from, because they were not picking up the landline. I keep calling my grandchildren on the landline quite often. So just to know that they're well, I know both their parents are working. And nowadays it's a common thing. Both parents have to work. So even we've been doing it all our lives, and now my children are doing that. So then my son called me and he told me that I'm going to tell you something now, don't worry, because the children and Divya are all safe, and it's going to take a little time to douse the fire, but you stop thinking about it and worrying about it. So I felt that it was a miracle, because God took everything in his hands. And but of course I became very emotional about it, and I just have to thank God. Actually, I thank God at every moment of my life. Whatever happens, whether I'm sick or anyone, I know that we'll come out of it. She will take care of us. So this is what I wanted to share today.
Thank you for coming and thank you for sharing. And it's like so amazing that early, I would say that we usually feel that we are grateful for the miracles, right? And when you start seeing that how the slaps and the neck kind of the hardships are also shaping everybody so beautifully. And then, when you're grateful for those as well, then I think it also, it gets really interesting. And the more you have faith, the more it grows. Like I think everybody, I mean, there's not even a need to say that. So it's so nice to be able to acknowledge that miracle, that's like moment to moment, the miracles that are
Yeah, yeah.
happening.
I know that we have to go through hardships. That is life.
Yeah.
If we are born in this world, we have to go through hardships. And those we should accept as a prasad and thank God, okay, this is a hardship which I'm going through, but I know that I will come out of it somehow or the other.
Yeah.
So it's up to us how we react to anything, actually. It is tough. When it happens, it's very, very tough. But then we have to thank God for whatever we've, whatever, everything, for everything.
Yeah.
We have to just keep thanking God, nothing else.
Yeah. Thank you. Captain, I think you're having some network issue. That's why your camera is off. But would you like to share audio, like anything that you've read today?
Uh, Good evening, everybody. In fact, since evening, there's a power fluctuation, and I thought it may not be possible actually to attend because though that standby power system is there, but somehow the power is going and coming, going and coming. So a lot of disturbance. So as Jasnaji was talking the topic, so I was remembering that anything you want to do, there will be a lot of resistance on the way. So probably, but mm, as it was being discussed that probably everything is a teaching for us, lesson for us actually. Like in the defense, we used to say after the war is there, then we used to analyze what is the lesson learned from this. So similarly here also, if any difficulties we are facing on the way, whatever we wanted to do on day-to-day basis, and if we really analyze in cool mind, then we can see that it was a learning for us. God is leading us towards that. So probably that was required at the time. So if we accept that, then we are at peace. So I'm not mentally disturbed. So in fact, I was preparing for today the supreme will. This is in the synthesis of yoga, this chapter, synthesis and the supreme will. So if we have, as it is told in Bhagavad Gita, that once you have decided that I'll go in this path, after selecting the path, it starts with in the light of this progressive manifestation of the spirit.
It's not picking it up through this. You can start speaking and I'll again retype something.
Okay, the supreme will is the name of the chapter in synthesis of yoga. It starts with in the light of the progressive manifestation of the spirit, first apparently bound in the ignorance, then free in the power and wisdom of the infinite, we can better understand the great and crowning injunction of the Gita to the Karma Yogin, abandoning all dharmas, all principles, laws, and rules of conduct, take refuge in me alone. Yeah, this is the chapter. So all standards and rules are temporary constructions founded upon the needs of the ego in its transition from matter to spirit. So here, while reading this, then I was concentrating on the abandoning all dharmas, all principles and laws and rules of conduct. Take refuge in me alone. That Krishna is telling Arjuna. So
Can I tell you the Sanskrit version which I discovered.
Yes.
Sarva dharman paritajya namekam sharanam vyaja.
Absolutely
Sarvadharma,
right.
yeah. Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. Aham tva sarva papepyo moksha ikshyami ma shucha. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So absolutely true. And so this is the chapter. So here there are so many points come. The first is the surrender, uh, total surrender. There is nothing like 99.9%. It's a total surrender, and you keep on thinking about me every time. So like the Ramakrishna Paramahamsa used to say that, see, for the people, those who are Sangsar Dharma, those who are in the family. So, see, your mind can work there because there are a lot of responsibilities here in daily life we have to undergo, and but your mind should be always focused on that. So it was, because he used to talk to various type of people at various times, and he used to give that example. So he was giving example of a maid working in a house. It's a normal maid, they come to a house and they're working. And if in that house there's a small child, and child is crying and all, she goes and tender the child, keep quiet and all, everything is okay or something. So if somebody is observing as a neutral person, they will see that as if the child belongs to her, the way she takes care. But actually in the heart of heart, she knows that there is her own child is at home. So that mind is already there, that her own child is there. So that is the type of thing, like in sansar, in the family, we have to do all sorts jobs, but mind can be kept there, such that the mind is kept cool every time, and we can do a lot of jobs, whatever we are doing, our concentration and all that will not be disturbed much if we can keep our self. What am I? If I can keep that self always with me, then there will be no problem. Like we'll be able to see that both the jobs are done. So here, in the supreme will, uh, uh, Sri Aurobindo starts with that in the light of the progressive manifestation of the spirit. First, by that we are bound by the ignorance. So it's a that ignorance is totally, we are bound by ignorance from the beginning of our life. Some of us may be lucky that ignorance has been removed. Like recently there was Deepavali, so all over there were lights and lights. So, and some of us may be lucky that ignorance has been removed from the beginning of our lives. And the second comes the ego, manifested ego. So we're not ready to accept the thing as it is. So all this creation of God, everything is created by that Almighty, and even one leaf of a tree will not move without without His will or wish. We cannot do anything, because this is what I'm thinking, what are the type of thoughts are coming to us. It is all by Him. So it's not that we achieve something, some knowledge or something, and all, then the ego comes into play that yes, you have done this, you have done this, you have done this, and we like that if somebody is praising me or something like this. But the moment I know that it is not done by me, but it was done by somebody else who is residing within me, but not me, not this flesh and blood, the mind and intellect and all this. But other than all this, also there is somebody who is residing. So that without that power, the supreme will, whatever is coming to us, we will not be able to achieve still, because all those impediments will come on the way. So how do we cross these impediments? Every time, sometimes you are puzzled that how to do this, Then the suddenly thought comes, maybe from the mother, maybe from Rishi Aurobindo or whatever may be, the thought comes that there are not only one way to overcome this, there may be hundreds of ways by which it can be overcome. So suddenly something comes and then you implement that and you see that, yes, uh, later on if we just have the thought process, then you can see that, yes, whatever came to my mind, that was the right decision, which came from inside, the inner voice. So as a personal level, once I was taking a class for some instructors who will be taking class for the students in the defense. So then there are about 15 of the uh, 15 of the observers or evaluators. They wanted to see that how I'm taking the class, whether I'm following all the principles when to take class. There are so many rules, like you don't look at the blackboard and you have eyeball to eyeball contact and all those things. So then I had there's a 45 minutes class, 40 minutes. They came and sat down and they were noting down the points, discrepancies in me. So there are 5 minutes left, but the class was over, whatever I finished. Then suddenly if I say that, okay, class is over now, I'll revise that or something and all this, it may not be taken in that spirit. So suddenly I was thinking on a fraction of a second, some thought process came that next day's class, instead of saying that in the next day's class we're going to so and so discuss so and so, so then I told that I have to kill 5 minutes. So I just asked them a question: why should you speak the truth? So this answer you have to write in your notebook, maybe one sentence or one word or something, but you write individually. Don't speak. So everybody wrote. There are 40 students, rather 40 instructors. So then everybody wrote, and I asked them one by one, please read it quickly. So from one side they read. After the 40 answers are read out, then I said that none of them are correct. So then those are evaluators, they are also astonished that how can that be? So then I said, okay, time is short, so I'll just tell you what is the truth. What is the answer to this? Why should you speak the truth? I said that because truth is one. Truth is only one. That is the second truth. So the class got over. I said that in the next class I will be reading some rules and regulations and all this, like Indian Air Force rules and regulations and all this. So these are like Bible. We have to follow these rules. So everybody. So that was the only sentence I spoke. Then I was called by the officer commanding separately, and I was told that how you got this idea and all this. I said again, I didn't know actually from where this thought process came, but it just came to me. It's not that I have practiced and this and that. If this situation comes, then I'll do this. That situation comes, and all. We cannot prepare like this. Day-to-day basis, as Jyotsna ji was saying, and we had been facing innumerable issues, actually, innumerable issues, and by the God's grace, and we are in a position to overcome them truthfully. So how it came, I do not know, but it came. It came, and maybe luckily it just worked. There's something like that by the in the school when you are learning English, you used to write, on the top we used to write God, about the God. The God helps those who help themselves. Or we used to write God, not is good. I'm just not getting this. Okay, so no, I strongly believe this. This belief, and there are so much of belief we can have, but this is the only belief that everywhere, whatever is happening, this is not by my will or somebody's will and wish. It is designed. It has been designed like this. It has to happen like this. So
I think if we turn our videos off, he will get the bandwidth.
So, Captain, I don't know if you can hear us, but we can't hear you anymore. Yeah, and I don't think this working. So we can, I think restart our cameras.
Not
I
working,
think
yeah.
there were some power issues, he said, at his place. Maybe he can reconnect. Yeah. On faith, which I remember mother had, once shared a story that I think somebody had, a captain is here. So yes, captain, could, yeah, it got disconnected for us. We could, yeah, screen got hanged. You're on mute.
I think I'll stop at this and probably we'll hear the reflections. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just continue. I was just saying that, mother, I think there was some a, aircraft accident or something, like an accident was about to happen and it didn't happen, something like this, and people were able to land safely. Then everybody was, thanking God that, nothing happened, that everybody was safe. And mother had said something like this, that, you don't see the, I don't know, 20,000 airplanes that land safely without anything, anyways. But one you see and you say, thank God, it didn't. But there's so much that can go wrong, like every second. And yet we feel that's my entitlement, or that's, I don't even look at it. Like each breath that I'm getting, I mean, it's so, so precious. Ask someone, who's not able to breathe. Like, I know it sounds cliche, but it's so true that how easy it is for us to not look at the grace that we are surrounded with. Chitraji, you had said, you'd asked me to bring, we should restart the thing on thoughts, that document that I have. But was there any sharing also you wanted to? I mean, you haven't like shared what you had read. Would you want to do that, or should we start with the thought share?
No, you go ahead, Taru. Yeah.
Okay, so just
Yeah.
for the others,
Regarding thought only, I also read something, so we
why
can
don't
go.
you say it? You can, why your sharings, like it would be nice. Why don't you share it? I'll pull it up.
Yeah. It is about the purification of thoughts. Because I read it from MP Pandit's book. He's was the sadhak, no, in ashram, the olden days. Yeah.
Would it be on the incarnate world? Should I try to look it
No,
up?
it won't be there.
Okay,
Taru. It won't be
perfect. Then
there
we'll,
because it's
yeah.
his book. Yeah, it is his book
Okay,
actually.
okay, great.
He told about he's telling about the purification of mind. We are dealing with the purification of an instrument which is the most important for man. Man is a mental being, and in spite of the fact that he lives in a body which is activated by a life force, it is ultimately the mind that decides what the man is. It is the function. Once again, it's a very old book. On the page. It is the functioning of the mind that decides the level at which he lives. How the body is put to use, how the life energy is made to work, depends upon the poise of his mind, the development of his mind. Therefore, for man at least, mind is the first instrument that should be taken up for purification. Mind, as we have seen, is an inner instrument. It is called in Sanskrit the Antakarana, the inner instrument. The inner instrument consists of buddhi, that is intelligence, and will or intelligent will. Thereafter come the mind, the senses, the sense mind, active and passive, and so on. Now, this inner instrument with which we function is, if we observe dispassionately, at the mercy of what Sri Aurobindo calls the psychic prana, life force, acting as the vehicle of desire. This force does not function only on the vital level. It has a mental coloring. The desire may originate from anywhere in the vital or the life energies, but it succeeds in getting the assent of the mind. It gets a psychological color and infects the working of the whole system through the mind. You can call it the psychological prana if you like, to make it more specific. It is that which brings about the vitiation in the whole working. If something comes before me, for instance, this paragraph is very beautiful. Do I look at it purely from the point of view of what it is, how it is made? The first reaction normally is, how will it be useful for me? Do I have it? Can I have it? My assessment of the thing, my reaction to the thing depends upon what part it can play in my life. That is, at bottom, the desire to possess. If I don't have possession of it, how can I get it? In some way or other, we relate things that come before us to our desire self. And this is the main point of vitiation. As there is a truth behind everything in God's creation, there is a truth here also, though the truth has been deformed and perverted in its expression. The principle behind this psychic prana is bhoga, enjoyment. Things are to be taken up and enjoyed, they call it bhoga. But what is the divine intention? Bhoga as a principle has to be accepted even in yoga, but is bhoga completely negative or an inferior principle? The form we have given to that principle is deformed. Bhoga proceeds right from the plane of Ananda. It is a divine delight that pours itself out in a million forms so that the divine can enjoy itself in the form of another. Is going further, actually. Only up to this I read, because it is the purification of mind. I take the topic from Synthesis of Yoga only. This is his explanation, MP Pandit's. This is a very old book, actually. Yoga of Self-Perfection. Very, very old book by MP Pandit. You must be knowing, no, Josna ji? MP Pandit. Yeah.
I met him very, very often.
Oh, very nice.
He used to be in the down room, sitting on the right near the meditation room.
Oh, okay. So very good explanation. We can go further in the next weeks, but now you maybe this is about the mind only, no? That book also, Thoughts. We can
Yeah,
read
but
about
Chittaji,
it.
since you had read a lot and because it wasn't in front of us,
Yeah.
sometimes things were lost.
Yeah,
So why don't
yeah,
you just share the crux of what
yeah,
you
yeah.
read or what you
Because,
resonate
yeah,
with?
I took it from first Synthesis of Yoga only. Last time also I shared, no, Release from Heart and Mind. That book only. This is the explanation about our mind. Step by step he is explaining. First he is taking up the purification of mind. So in that he is telling actually how you react to the objects. First, when you see an object, how will you react? Whether you want to possess it, first you will react as if you like it, and then you want to possess it, and then you want to have it like that. Your reaction will be. But instead of that reaction, if we go beyond that reaction, we will see divine's intention in that, it seems. Things are to be taken up and enjoyed. They call it bhoga. In that way, step by step, he insisted upon the purification of the mind. So there is lot of things it's going, but up to this I stopped actually. That bhoga is the enjoyment, but that is, if that is a real enjoyment, is the possession by the divine, it seems actually. When we desire, it is deformed. That principle is deformed. Bhoga proceeds right from the plane of Ananda, divine Ananda. So divine desire is also there, it is actually. But our desire, human desire, is always limited. So first we have to purify that desire mind, then we go further. Sense mind, emotional mind, it is going further. Yeah. This is the crux. Because man is more of mind, no? He's emphasizing that fact only. Mind, as we have seen, is an inner instrument. And he is also telling, or man at least, mind is the first instrument that should be taken up for purification. That is the main thing.
This desire to possess, it's so evidently even seen in children. It's just, yes, Nandini, thank you so much for joining.
Yeah.
It's like I want, like it's just, I have a nephew who's like 1.5 years, not even 1.5, and he hasn't started speaking yet. And that day I was holding him, and suddenly, he just started kind of wanting to just punch me or something. And I was like, what does he want? And I tried, I put him down on the floor, and he ran, like he runs like a drunkard, like kind of with that gait. And he had seen a car, a shining car toy somewhere. And because he couldn't speak, and he wanted that, so he just wanted me to leave him so that he could, just go and grab it. And then he looked at it with so much wonder. I mean, it was both sweet and shocking that, I was like, what have I done? What just happened? So this possession, right? Like I want to hold, I want to touch, like even with flowers, right? We see it with kids, especially how they just want to quickly pluck.
Yeah.
That's
what he said. I mean, beautifully is telling, no, how it is made. The first reaction normally is, how will it be useful for me? Do I have it? Can I have it? Yeah. But do I look at it purely from the point of view of what it is, how it is made? That must, but it is, instead of that, whether we can have it, that question only arises, no?
Yeah. Yeah, we don't even go to the usefulness part that comes later. The first thing is, I want. Why do you want? Just because. I just want, right? Like, especially with, it's just interesting. Before the thoughts thing, or maybe the thoughts thing we can take next time, it's already 8. There was also something, a little a paragraph that I had read. Again, it's nice to share. I'll just share the screen. So it's a long thing, but just this paragraph I would want to take up. As for the sense of superiority, that too is a little difficult to avoid when greater horizons open before the consciousness. This was on consciousness basically. So unless one is already of a saintly and humble disposition, so it's easier to get, that superiority thing. There are men like Nag Mahashe, in whom spiritual experience creates more and more humility. There are others like Vivekananda, in whom it erects a giant sense of strength and superiority. European critics have taxed him with it rather severely. There are others in whom it fixes a sense of superiority to men and humility to divine. Each position has its value. So this was the main thing. Take Vivekananda's famous answer to the Madras Pandit who objected to one of his assertions. But Shankara does not say so. To which Vivekananda replied, no, Shankara does not say so, but I, Vivekananda, say so. And the Pandit sank back amazed and speechless that I, Vivekananda, stands up to the ordinary eye like a Himalaya of self-confident egoism. But there was nothing false or unsound in Vivekananda's spiritual experience. This was not mere egoism, but the sense of what he stood for and the attitude of the fighter who, as the representative of something very great, could not allow himself to be put down or belittled. This is not to deny the necessity of non-egoism and of spiritual humility, but to show that the question is not so easy as it appears at first sight. For I have to express my spiritual experience, I must do it with truth. I must record them, their bhava, the thoughts, feelings, extensions of consciousness which accompany them. What can I do with the experience in which one feels the whole world in oneself, or the force of the divine flowing in one's being, and nature or certitude of one's faith against all doubts and doubters, or one's oneness with the divine, or the smallest of human thought and life compared with this greater knowledge and existence? And I have to use the word I. I cannot take refuge in saying this body or this appearance, especially as I am not a Mayavadi. Shall I not inevitably fall into expression which will make X shake his head at my assertions as full of pride and ego? I imagine it would be difficult to avoid it. So I, just this thing that how we are so quick to, first of all, judge, right? Like, oh, this thing, oh, he has lost it, he's egoistic and stuff. And yet, and even what Chitraji was sharing, that balance was lost and stuff. But I think this losing it, or what seems like losing it or standing up, is actually the way, right? It's actually the divine acting through you. That, and I think it's even in Gita, I think it was said, and like Krishna had also said this, that, for you, I am the way, I'm the only way. Arjuna, look at me, right? Don't look here and there. Jesus, I think that Christianity has really held on to it really strongly, that it's just him, because he said, I am the Son of God. Because if somebody's front of you is in front of you, and you are thinking of the 10 masters who have gone before, what use is that, right? So then if somebody is not listening and you say, I am saying it, it sounds so egoistic from one angle, and yet you want to say that, right? And sometimes with mystics, you feel that sense of arrogance, right? Like, but because we have that certitude or faith, we don't take it as arrogance, and yet we do see it. So I guess just this point that, nothing is good or bad in general. It's the center from which it's coming. For me, basically, that was it, because it seemed pretty strong, right? Like, I, Vivekananda, have said it. And that was then, when he probably wasn't even how we take him to be today, right?
And also the humility in front of the divine, not in front of the human beings. Yes, that is the point. Yeah. We need not prove our humility in front of other human beings. No, actually, if we are very certain in our faith, and yeah, that is also true.
So, Chitraji, you had mentioned the thyroid, right?
Yeah.
So in the thyroid gland, they say that when you suppress,
I know. Yeah.
That's when it kind of, starts misfunctioning and stuff.
Yeah.
It's just amazing how the body knows, and how it's taking in everything.
Even I felt that actually. I'm actually from deep inside, something is coming up, yeah, because of that suppression. That is the Vishuddhi chakra, no, here, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
I
a
did
beautiful butterfly-like organ, no, Jyotsna ji? It is a beautiful butterfly.
I did a study on about 450 thyroid cases,
Oh.
and I think in more than about 85% of them, there was one definite event of severe trauma or severe suppression or sudden shock, following which the hypo or hyperthyroidism appeared
Yeah.
and surfaced and symptomatized and came on in got detected in investigations.
Yeah. Mine is all other measurements are normal. No hypothyroidism, nothing. Simply the glands
No, this is
enlargement.
a simple colloid goiter. Don't even
Yeah.
bother.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm talking of the functionality of the
Yeah.
thyroid. It is so connected to our emotions that we, as medics, we say next to the functioning of the human brain,
Mm.
the most vital endocrine organ in the body is the thyroid. The most vital.
Yeah. And also the expert doctor's opinion is when it is swelled without any reason, it will end up in malignancy in future, it seems. So you remove the total thyroid glands. It just, yeah, it has come as a test for my faith, actually. I felt like that. Yeah, definitely. Hmm.
So I think we can end the
Yeah,
session here today.
yeah,
Thank you so much for joining us and hope to see us all here next Friday. Thank you.
yeah. Thank you.